Welcome to the NBAV podcast. Welcome back to another day on the NBAV podcast where we continue to improve our game. How'd you guys like that intro? Pretty good. We have quite a few things to talk about here on January 29th, 2024. The new year doesn't disappoint. January's almost over. Went by real quick. And we have quite a few things to discuss. Like I mentioned, we have the Detroit Pistons going out and beating the Oklahoma City Thunder, one of the most consistent teams in the NBA, going out and beating them 120-104 in a game where Jaden Ivey looked really good. Cade Cunningham was not on the court for this one for the Pistons, but Jaden Ivey did not disappoint. He looked great. And some other great news for the Pistons is that Bogdanovich looks real good. Monty Morris looks real good. Alec Burks looking pretty good. And they can send all these guys out on a silver platter in exchange for more assets while they figure their team out. The Thunder gets served a little slice of humble pie. They'll take this loss. They'll let it marinate. And they will move forward. It's not going to affect them negatively. They're not going to go on a losing streak. It doesn't matter who they play. They're going to continue to be the Oklahoma City Thunder, but every now and then it's nice to have a little wake-up call. And there's no bigger wake-up call than getting knocked out by the Pistons by 16 points when you consider yourself one of the premier teams in the entire NBA. Pacers rattled off another victory. Hawks got another victory. We have the Suns, who had won 7 games in a row, and then they proceed to lose their next 2 games on this road trip. So the Suns losing to the Magic, a team that they beat in Phoenix a couple weeks ago, at the beginning of this month. They beat them on New Year's Eve. The Suns beat the Magic in Phoenix. And now the Suns go and they lose to the Magic, 113-98. Was not a runaway game the entire time, as you might get confused of seeing the final score, a 15-point victory for the Magic. But it was a decently close game for a lot of it. The problems for the Suns are the same problems they've had the entire season, which is they don't play good enough defense and they don't have good enough rebounding inside. Orlando absolutely owned them in the paint. Mo Wagner took the Phoenix Suns and put them in their pocket and said, I own you. I walk around. I do what I want. You guys don't affect me. Mo Wagner owning the Phoenix Suns. Also, Paolo Banchero owning them inside. It didn't really matter who. Wendell Carter had some nice dunks inside. You had Jonathan Isaac getting a couple of plays inside. It didn't really matter. The Suns have this massive glaring issue where on most nights they can still win the game because Devin Booker scored 44 points last night. He scored 62 the game before that. So in his last 2 games, that's 62 and 44. That's 106 points over his last 2 games. 106 points in 2 losses. 106 points is enough points to win a ball game by yourself. In 2 games, he scores 106, and the Suns don't even get a victory. At this point, you'd have to say for the Suns, is it even worth perhaps trading one of their big 3 players to go out and get a real center, someone who can establish a paint presence? Because you don't really need 3 big-time scorers. You have Durant and you have Booker, and both of them can shoot the ball on any play. They could just rise up and shoot it. That's what they've been doing, and it can work. Now, I had a thought during the game today, during the game last night, that what would happen if Durant just took the shot every single time he got the ball for the entire game? Their games would probably go pretty similarly to how they're going right now. I don't know if it would impact them very negatively at all if Durant just every time he got the ball he just shot it. That's how reliable his shot is. And Booker really the same thing. I mean, he's shown over the last 2 nights that he can baseline rise up and shoot it over literally anyone in the league. He was rising and shooting it over Banchero last night. Banchero's nearly 7 feet tall. He can shoot it over anybody, and the same goes definitely for Durant. So would you trade Bradley Beal to get a center, a real dominant paint presence? Problem is Bradley Beal has a no trade clause in the contract, so the Suns can't even do that. So then you have to look at the rest of the roster and go, well, who on the roster do we have that's even something that any team would want? The only other thing they have on the roster is Grayson Allen, who's played really well for them this year. And they would definitely want to hold on to him. But you'd have to think, at what point, for what type of player does it become worth it where they say, we have this massive glaring hole. Yes, Grayson Allen's been great for us. But at what point is it worth giving away Grayson Allen to get the fix to your problem, which is that you need a paint presence? Because, Eubanks and Metu are really not getting the job done, and they're costing the Suns games. This was a game against the Magic that if the Suns had a big man who could play, they definitely would have won the game, or definitely could have won the game, would have been close. So that's the problem for the Phoenix Suns that they're going to have to address because, Devin Booker's putting up all-time statistics right now, and it's not translating into victories like you'd hope it would. There were a couple of other interesting points in the NBA to discuss. A couple of other points. Let me get my notes pulled up. I have the something that I was talking about with one of my buddies is that for the Lakers, D'Angelo Russell has played too well. He's played too well to the point where you can't trade the guy anymore. Because he, with his volatility, take the volatility into account, he has been the difference maker in a lot of their victories this year. And there's a headline where it says, Lakers rumors trade with Hawks for DeJounte Murray unrealistic due to D'Angelo Russell's recent play. You can't trade D'Angelo Russell for DeJounte Murray because it's going to impact you negatively. DeJounte Murray would be more losses in the record than D'Angelo Russell would amount to. D'Angelo Russell's playing too well. And even in the game that they just beat the Warriors in, where D'Angelo Russell turned the ball over twice and really could have turned the ball over 3 times in double overtime, and then he goes and hits a 3 in transition, you're going to have to live and die by the volatility that D'Angelo Russell provides you. Because when you have LeBron and Anthony Davis and they're not enough to win these games consistently, they have to have a bit of volatility like D'Angelo Russell, who can say, look, maybe sometimes I'm going to bite you in the butt, but on other nights, I'm going to win the ball game for you. And then they just have to hope that volatility proves in their favor in the playoffs, like it did for part of the playoff run last year. That's how this team is going to live and die, because they're not good enough as a team right now to be taken seriously as a championship contender. So what is going to be the difference maker to where they potentially could win a championship? It's going to be with a couple of guys who are high volatility players, like a D'Angelo Russell and perhaps like a Rui Hachimura would be in the playoffs like he was last year, and hope that they're hot, and that's their ticket to potentially winning it. But you can't trade D'Angelo Russell for a guy who's worse than him, but maybe a more consistent presence, but who's not as good, because you need those high volatility nights where D'Angelo Russell wins the game for you. Because that's your ticket to winning this whole thing. It's getting D'Angelo Russell right at the right time. It's getting Rui Hachimura right at the right time, as complemented by your mainstays, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and a steady dose of Austin Reeves. That's your ticket. So you can't trade that ticket. You can't trade D'Angelo Russell right now if you're a Lakers fan. He's been too good for you. And then we have another headline, which is that Joel Embiid will be ineligible for awards if he misses 6 more games. So Joel Embiid is already on the clock. He wants that second MVP back-to-back. But he can't miss 6 more games. So what does that mean? I'll tell you. That means that before the season is over, he's going to miss 5 more games. Joel Embiid has his thumb on the pulse. He knows exactly how many games he can miss. Barring injury, Joel Embiid will miss exactly 5 more games for the duration of the year. and he will still be eligible to win his MVP. He's going to miss the exact maximum amount of games that he possibly can, and he's going to do it. Well, you would think he would do it smartly. It seems like they did it a little bit suspiciously in this last one against the Nuggets, where he didn't play, and there was seemingly no reason for it. But Joel Embiid, barring injury, he'll be there for the rest of the year, and he will miss exactly the amount of games that he's allowed to miss. We have a really, really, really full slate of 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 games of NBA action tonight on January 29th. We have the NBA's hottest team going against one of the other NBA's hottest teams. The Clippers going to Cleveland to face the Cavaliers. Cavaliers had won 8 games in a row. Then they lost to the Bucks, and then they got their mojo back and came back and beat the Bucks. And you have the Clippers, who in their last 26 games are 22-4. This should make for a phenomenal game, and that's just the first one that we have tonight. Then you have the Knicks marching into Charlotte tonight to take on the Hornets in a game that the Knicks have got to win. You have the Jazz hoping to keep up their pretty solid season going into Brooklyn tonight to face the Nets. You have the Suns trying to bounce back after 2 losses in a row. They're continuing their road trip. The road hasn't been kind to them. They're much better at home, especially in close games down the stretch. They're going to Miami to face the Heat, who have been struggling in the last several games with a bunch of losses, including their most recent one to the Knicks. So who can get back on track? Is it the Suns on the road? Is it the Heat at home? The Pelicans are going to go march into Boston to face the Celtics. Celtics coming off of a loss to the Denver Nuggets, but they've been sensational at home this year. They've just been sensational. So Celtics, you would think, should be able to handle the Pelicans on their home turf. Then you have the top 2 teams in the Western Conference. You have the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder tied for the 1 seed right now with an exact winning percentage, 696. Just below 70% of their games are victories. They're both 32-14. They both lost their last game. Timberwolves really, really struggling in close games in the fourth quarter. Really struggling. And the Thunder having an amazing year. They lost their last game, getting beaten by the Detroit Pistons, and we should see them wake up tonight on their home floor. I would pick the Thunder to win this game against Minnesota on their home court. Then you have the Kings coming off of a couple of victories. They're going to go take their talents to Memphis, where they're going to play a Memphis team who just lost to the Pacers. Kings should be able to handle business. They've been playing a little bit better lately. They've been having a hot and cold season. They seem to be getting their act together, and I expect them to go into Memphis and handle business versus the Grizzlies. You have the Lakers coming off the double overtime victory. They're going to go march into Houston, where the Lakers have got to start stringing some victories together. Let's see if they can do that tonight against the Rockets. I expect that they will. Then you have the Wizards playing the Spurs in a game that nobody's going to watch, although the Spurs have been playing marginally better as of late. Then you have the Magic coming off of their victory last night in Orlando against the Phoenix Suns. They're going to go against Dallas and against the red-hot Luka. And we'll see. I don't know if Irving is playing in this game. We'll see if Kyrie is back. But you're going to have Orlando going against Dallas, which should be a great game in Dallas. You have the Bucks coming off of the loss to Cleveland. They are trying to figure out the coaching situation. It seems like Doc Rivers is it's a foregone conclusion that he's the coach. So Doc Rivers, will he be there tonight? Not sure. But you have the Bucks going against the Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets playing well right now. And this should be a phenomenal game. This could be a preview of the NBA Finals for this year. You could have if the Denver Nuggets can make it back-to-back NBA Finals, you have the Bucks. They won it a few years ago. They have Damian Lillard now. They have a championship roster. This could be a preview of what's to come, potentially, in a couple of months from now. And then, closing out the night, you have the 76ers going into Portland to face the Trailblazers in a game that the 76ers have got to win if they are to be taken seriously. And that's going to pretty much round out our evening. So a really full slate, 12 NBA games. This is just absolutely crazy. 12 NBA games of hoops on a Monday night. Football, basically in the rearview mirror, you have the Super Bowl set. So in 2 weeks from now, it'll be the Super Bowl, but there's only one more game of football this entire year. It's just one game left. It's going to be the Chiefs against the 49ers in a rematch of a game that we saw within the last 4 or 5 seasons. So it's all NBA from here on out. And what a way to start off the week. Then 12 games of hoops on a Monday night. As usual, we are NBAV on the NBAV podcast. You can email the show with your questions and comments at nbavenue@yahoo.com. That's NBAVENUE at yahoo.com. Follow us on X and follow us on Facebook at NBAV or NB Avenue. That's Twitter and Facebook. And we got the website coming over the next 60 days, hopefully. And we will catch you on the next one.